What's up guys, I'm Zach and welcome back to Workshop Edits. In today's project, I want to take you through how I built this giant outdoor covered storage open shed thing that can basically keep anything that we want outside covered but also readily accessible to us at all times. So let's go ahead and get started. So this project is basically making two walls and a roof. So it should be relatively straightforward. I have all of the material that I need. I will put a list of what I bought specifically for my buy in the description, and we're just going to go ahead and start breaking down the material for the walls first, and then we will do the roof second. Let's get started. All right, so we have all the pieces broken down for the two side pieces, so we're going to move on to drilling pocket holes in all the places that we want to connect things together, and then we're going to use 2.5-inch pocket hole screws to bring it together. And just remember, we're making two of these, and they're going to be mirrors of each other in terms of where the pocket holes are, so that once I put the siding on things, the pocket holes will be hidden. All right, so we just finished assembling the two side pieces. Super straightforward when you're using pocket holes. We are now going to move on to building the roof, which is just a very basic box that's going to be two long stretchers and then a bunch of horizontal pieces to connect them. Okay, so the top is assembled. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be, but I think it came out good. The next thing we're gonna do is start applying sheathing to the top and the side pieces. So I bought a single sheet of OSB, which I'm gonna use for the top. It's 7/16 inches wide. What I'm gonna do is just lay it out on top, use some screws to attach it to as much of the top as I can, mark a line, use my circular saw, cut it off, and then finish off covering it. We just finished up putting on the OSB sheathing on the roof, which you can see behind me. I just ran out of material. I thought I had calculated it perfectly, but luckily I had a half sheet of plywood, and this is going to get covered with roofing tiles and flashing anyway, so you're never going to know the difference, but I'm glad I had that extra sheet. So now what I'm doing is doing basically the same process, but putting the kind of shiplap, pre-made shiplap wood that I got at Home Depot on the two siding pieces. And the way that I'm actually doing is I have it laid out here. I have one screw in a corner, and then I put the other piece on top, and that way I can mark out sort of where I'm going to cut this down, and then I'm going to take the excess pieces that I have and put it on the other side of the piece, and then I think we're going to be ready to paint these. All right, it is day 2. Just to summarize what we've done so far, we have built both sides of the shed storage thing and the roof as well. I also went back and just sanded down the shiplap pine. It was pretty rough, and it just felt like if I painted it the way it wasn't going to come out right. So now, because it is the next day, it is ready for paint. So the good thing is for The roof, I really only need to paint the sides and the underside of it because it's going to be covered by flashing and roofing shingles on top. So what I'm going to do is start by painting just the sides and underside of the roof. Then I'm going to move that out of the way and move on to the interiors of the walls because I don't really care a whole lot how those look. I can paint those first, then flip them over and paint them. I want to do this all in one pass just because getting painting set up with a painting gun is a little bit of work. Like prep is most of the work when it comes to it. So now that I have it all set up, I'm going to prep my paint gun and then get this started. And this should go relatively quick because it's not that much to paint. So let's do it. All right, it is day 3. We are done painting. Everything is dried. I hate painting. It takes forever. It's super messy. Anyways, we are now going to focus on the final part of the roof, which includes adding flashing and shingles. I'm in Los Angeles. I probably don't even need flashing because it rains like once every 3 years at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and add it just so you could see a rather simple but proper way to do it. So what we're going to do is start by adding the flashing to the left and right sides of the roof, and we're going to then bend it around to be in the front of it. Then we're going to put the shingles on top of that so that it is watertight, and then once all of the shingles are on, we'll finish off by putting the flashing in the back edge, which is like the high end of the roof, on top of that, and then we will just put some roofing sealant on top of the nails that we use to flash it. Then the whole thing should be watertight and like a very simple standard method. So we'll start by doing the flashing, and I'll just show an up-close method that I've seen from a bunch of other videos on how to just cut flashing so that it can be angled around a corner properly. The flashing that I have is only 10 feet long. This roof is 11 feet long, so there's going to be a little bit of overlap and having to basically like utilize 3 pieces that are 10 feet long to fit across 4 sides. You'll see how it works. All right, so just got finished installing the shingles. I was literally 1 piece short. So instead of going out and spending $45 to buy an additional pack and use one of them, all I did was just take a cutoff, like a big end strip cutoff, and I just cut and made my own shingles for the final like 12 to 18 inches of it, and it should work out totally fine. If you are doing this professionally or you're building your roof for your house, I'd recommend just getting a new pack, but this should be totally fine. Now that that is complete, the last thing that I am going to do is install the final piece of flashing on the top end. That's going to go over the top of the shingles so that water will run over the shingles and down the roof and off the edge if it ever does decide to rain in California. Then what I'm going to do is, just to seal off those nails so there's zero leakage, is add just a dab of roofing sealant to each of those nails, and then the top of this piece should be done. All right, the roof is completely finished. It is now time for assembly. So the way that I'm connecting the 2 walls together is just with 4 2x10s, and then the roof will obviously connect it on top. I'm going to be connecting the stretchers to the side pieces using pocket holes. So super simple, just going to drill those real quick. Now that those pieces are drilled, I'm going to start moving everything outside, the walls, the stretchers, and then eventually the roof. So in order to make this easier on myself, I'm going to do 2 things because I'm just one person. First thing is I'm going to attach to the base of each of the walls a perpendicular piece that's just screwed into it temporarily. That is going to allow me to keep them perpendicular while I start to assemble this together and not have to worry about jerry-rigging it to stand straight up or worry about it falling on me. Second thing I'm going to do is just use a couple of temporary scraps that I'm just going to brad nail into place on each side. That way I can rest the 2x4 on the opposite end of the piece and know that they are perfectly level with each other and not have to worry about, again, like clamping it or having an extra set of hands to hold it up. All right, we got the 4 stretchers in place. It feels pretty solid. The last thing that I want to do is cut a couple of 45-degree smaller 2x4 pieces, And I'm just going to use that to sort of tie together the walls to the stretchers a little bit more securely, so there's not like any kind of wiggle or give back and forth. If I'm finding for whatever reason it doesn't feel strong enough, I'll go back and I'll find a way to make it even stronger, either by adding more stretchers or in the long run potentially add some sheets of plywood in the back just to prevent shearing from happening. If you feel like for your situation you're building something and you want it to be more secure, feel free to add as much like structural support as possible. But again, this thing is pretty small and it feels pretty secure having just like played with it. All right, just finished adding in the 45-degree supports. Thing is feeling very solid. Time to install the roof. Definitely gonna wanna grab a partner for this one. This thing is heavy. All right, so we just finished installing the roof. That thing was heavy, a little bit trickier to install than I thought it was gonna be. Hi. Sort of fell into place. I thought the whole thing was just gonna sit directly on top of the structure, but instead the back sat a little bit higher, like on top of it. And then because there's no support piece in the front of it, the roof actually sat at a steeper angle, which originally, like when I dropped it into place, I was like, oh, that's probably not gonna work. I need to add a stretcher to the front. However, after kind of like seeing it in place, I actually like the angle of the roof, and it's gonna make it a little bit easier to attach the roof because I didn't really have a plan for it. So now what I can do is just add in toe screws to the back that will go from the cross support into each of the like small stretchers that are on the roof. So that's super easy to do. And then I can add a couple of screws from the front of the actual walls outwards that just go into the sides of the roof. And then it's going to be attached nicely in the back and the front. And we are going to call this project done. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for this project. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a project that's been on my wife and I's list for a couple of months now. Having a 1-year-old with lots of toys that they like to have readily accessible but keep outside, this is the type of thing that we can keep those toys stored and organized for when people come over, but also readily accessible for when we want to pull them out quickly. If you enjoyed the video, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that like button, and I will see you guys next time on whatever it is that I'm building. Bye.